When we think of World War I or II in Europe, we picture the beaches of Normandy, the ruins of Berlin, and the liberation of Paris. But hidden beneath the surface of this well-known history lies a secret network that few people know about. Across the European continent, the United States military established hundreds of covert installations, secret airfields, and hidden supply depots that played a crucial role in winning the war. Today we're going to uncover these forgotten places and reveal the extraordinary stories of the men and women who operated in the shadows. From the foggy fields of England to the mountains of Italy, from the forests of France to the fjords of Norway, American forces built a clandestine infrastructure that would change the course of history. These weren't just military bases, they were lifelines, intelligence centers, and launching pads for operations that would determine the fate of millions. Our story begins in the English countryside, where the first American intelligence officers arrived in 1942. One of the most secretive locations was RAF Tempsford, located in Bedfordshire. While officially a British base, American OSS agents, the predecessors of the CIA, used this airfield as a staging ground for covert missions into occupied Europe. Tempsford was known as Gibraltar Farm in coded messages. Under cover of darkness, black-painted aircraft would take off from its runways, carrying spies, saboteurs, and resistance fighters to drop zones across France, Norway, and the Low Countries. The Americans stationed here worked alongside British SOE agents, coordinating operations that would never appear in official records. Just 60 miles away lay another secret, Station 210, officially known as RAF Harrington. This became the primary base for American carpetbagger operations, covert flights delivering weapons, supplies, and agents to resistance groups. The 800 1st Bombardment Group operated from here, flying modified B-24 Liberators painted matte black for night missions. Between 1943 and 1945, over 1,800 successful supply missions were flown from these secret British bases. American agents lived in isolated farmhouses, their real identities known only to a handful of commanders. They developed cover stories, learned foreign languages, and prepared for missions from which many would never return. In the remote flatlands of Norfolk, England, the Americans established one of their most dangerous experimental programs. RAF Fursfield became home to Project Anvil, a top-secret mission that involved converting war-weary B-17 and B-24 bombers into radio-controlled flying bombs, packed with 20,000 pounds of explosives. The concept was simple but deadly. Volunteer pilots would take off in these explosive-laden aircraft, aim them toward hardened German targets like submarine pens and V-weapon sites, then parachute out while a mothership guided the drone to its target by radio control. Among the volunteers was Lieutenant Joseph Kennedy, Jr., the older brother of future President John F. Kennedy. On August 12, 1944, Kennedy took off from Fursfield in a modified B-24 Liberator loaded with Torpex explosives. Somewhere over the Suffolk countryside, the aircraft exploded prematurely, killing Kennedy and his co-pilot instantly. The cause was never determined. The explosion was so massive that wreckage fell across a 3-mile radius. Project Anvil continued for several more months before being quietly abandoned. The existence of Fursfield and Project Anvil remained classified for decades. Today, only concrete foundations remain in the Norfolk fields, silent witnesses to one of the war's most experimental and tragic programs. While pilots flew dangerous missions from secret airfields, another shadow war was being prepared at grand English estates converted into training centres. Milton Hall, a stately manor near Peterborough, became the headquarters for Operation Jedburgh, one of the most daring special operations programmes of the war. American, British and French volunteers trained here in sabotage, demolitions, radio communications and guerrilla warfare. They would be inserted into occupied France just before and after D-Day to coordinate with resistance fighters, disrupt German communications and create chaos behind enemy lines. The Americans called Milton Hall Area J. Security was absolute. Jedburgh teams learned to live off the land, forge documents, conduct ambushes, and evade capture. They memorized every detail of their assigned regions in France, from the names of mayors to the locations of German headquarters. Between June and September 1944, nearly 100 Jedburgh teams parachuted into France. They coordinated resistance forces numbering in the tens of thousands, derailed trains, destroyed bridges, and tied down German divisions that could have reinforced Normandy. Their success was built on the secret infrastructure established in England. Other secret American facilities dotted the British landscape. Area C at Chicheley Hall in Buckinghamshire trained agents in document forgery and disguise. Station 17 inches at Brock Hall in Northamptonshire developed specialised weapons and sabotage devices. Each facility was compartmentalised, its true purpose known only to those who worked there. As D-Day approached, southern England transformed into a vast military encampment, but not all American forces gathered in obvious locations. Thousands of troops were hidden in camps constructed deep within forests, camouflaged beneath netting and tree cover to avoid German reconnaissance flights. The secrecy extended to elaborate deceptions. As part of Operation Fortitude, the Americans established fake headquarters and bases in southeastern England, complete with radio traffic and inflatable tanks, to convince Germany that the invasion would strike at Pas-de-Calais rather than Normandy. Real bases were hidden, fake ones were conspicuous. One of the most secret and tragic preparations occurred at Slapton Sands in Devon. The entire village was evacuated, so American forces could practice amphibious landings on beaches that resembled Normandy. In April 1944, during Exercise Tiger, German E-boats infiltrated the training exercise and torpedoed American LSTs, killing 749 servicemen. The tragedy was classified immediately. With D-Day only weeks away, commanders feared that captured survivors might reveal invasion plans under interrogation. Families were told their loved ones died in training accidents. The full story wasn't declassified for decades. Today, a simple memorial stands on the beach where so many died in secret. From these hidden camps and secret ports, over 1 million American troops would launch the liberation of Europe. But even after D-Day, the secret bases didn't disappear. They multiplied across the continent. Within days of the Normandy landings, American combat engineers were constructing secret forward airfields throughout the French countryside. These weren't marked on any maps. Codenamed with letters and numbers A1, A2, B5, they appeared overnight in farmers' fields. These advanced landing grounds served fighter squadrons that provided close air support to advancing troops. Constructed from pierced steel planking laid across levelled fields, they could be operational within 48 hours. Germans didn't know they existed until American fighters appeared overhead. As Allied forces raced across France, the OSS established new secret headquarters in liberated cities. In Cannes, they commandeered Villa Montfleury, a Mediterranean mansion that became the nerve centre for operations into northern Italy and the Balkans. Agents codenamed Penny Farthing and Bathtub Joe coordinated resistance networks from its elegant rooms. Behind the advancing armies, secret supply depots appeared along the famous Red Ball Express route. These weren't official installations, they were hidden caches of fuel, ammunition, and spare parts established by logistics officers who knew that official supply lines couldn't keep pace with Patton's tanks. American medical units commandeered chateaux and monasteries, converting them into secret hospitals for treating not just American wounded, but also OSS agents, resistance fighters, and downed pilots being smuggled through escape lines. The Geneva Convention protected hospitals, but these installations were never registered with the Red Cross to maintain operational security. By autumn 1944, eastern France contained dozens of covert American facilities. From signal intelligence stations monitoring German communications to prisoner interrogation centers extracting tactical information, the hidden infrastructure of war extended across the liberated territory. The Italian campaign presented unique challenges for secret bases. Fighting through mountains and narrow valleys, American forces established some of their most hidden installations in caves, monasteries, and remote alpine villages. In Siena, the OSS established Company D, which specialized in operations behind German lines in northern Italy. Agents recruited anti-fascist partisans, coordinated sabotage operations, and established radio networks. The villa they used had once belonged to Mussolini's chief of police, a bitter irony. From bases in the Apennine Mountains, American officers coordinated partisan forces numbering over 100,000 fighters. These mountain camps moved frequently, always one step ahead of German anti-partisan sweeps. Supply drops occurred at night, coordinated through coded BBC radio messages. The Abbey of Monte Cassino, before its tragic destruction, had been carefully avoided by both sides, but other monasteries became covert American facilities. Monks often collaborated, hiding radio equipment in crypts and allowing agents to pose as friars. These sacred places provided perfect cover. In the limestone mountains near La Spezia, American forces established entire command posts inside cave systems. Protected from air attack and artillery, these subterranean bases coordinated coastal raiding operations against German supply lines. Some caves had been used by smugglers for centuries. Now they served strategic purposes. The port of Bari concealed one of America's darkest secrets in Italy. When German bombers struck the harbour in December 1943, one of the ships they hit, the SS John Harvey, was secretly carrying 2,000 mustard gas bombs. The Americans had stockpiled chemical weapons in Italian ports as a deterrent, never intending to use them unless Germany did first. The explosion released mustard gas across the harbour, killing hundreds of servicemen and civilians. The incident was classified for decades. The most secret American presence in Europe wasn't in bases at all. It was the individual agents living under false identities in occupied territories. These men and women were America's invisible army. Armed with forged identity papers, suitcase radios, and cyanide pills in case of capture, OSS agents infiltrated major cities across occupied Europe. In Paris, they posed as businessmen and black marketeers. In Berlin, they worked as foreign labourers. Their missions: gather intelligence, identify bombing targets, and prepare for liberation. Safe houses formed a secret network across occupied territory. A farmhouse in Brittany, a Paris apartment, a boathouse in Holland. These locations were known only through coded messages and personal contacts. Americans used them to hide, transmit intelligence, and meet resistance leaders. One of the most remarkable agents was Virginia Hall, an American woman who worked for both British SOE and American OSS. Despite having a prosthetic leg which she called Cuthbert, Hall operated in occupied France for years, organizing resistance networks and evading the Gestapo. The Germans considered her the most dangerous Allied spy in France, but never discovered her identity. American agents coordinated weapons caches hidden across occupied Europe, containers buried in forests, rafters in barns packed with explosives, false floors in wine cellars concealing machine guns. These were the armories of the Shadow War, supplied by American aircraft and guarded by resistance fighters. Every agent carried the L-pill, a lethal dose of cyanide concealed in various ways, from false teeth to fountain pens. Capture by the Gestapo meant torture and death. The pill offered a final escape. Some agents never needed it, others bit down when cornered. Their sacrifice remains mostly unknown. Some of America's most valuable secret bases operated in plain sight, within diplomatic missions in neutral countries. The American legation in Bern, Switzerland, became the center of OSS intelligence operations in the heart of Europe. Alan Dulles, who would later become CIA director, ran operations from Bern. His safe-house apartment at Herrengasse 23 hosted secret meetings with German dissidents, Italian industrialists, and resistance leaders. Intelligence gathered here flowed directly to Eisenhower's headquarters. In spring 1945, Dulles's network facilitated Operation Sunrise, secret negotiations for the surrender of German forces in Italy. SS General Karl Wolff met American representatives in Switzerland, leading to the first major German surrender weeks before VE Day. Stalin was furious when he learned of these secret talks, fearing a separate peace. Stockholm, Sweden hosted another critical intelligence base. American attachés maintained contact with resistance movements in Norway and Denmark, coordinated escape routes for downed airmen, and received intelligence from anti-Nazi Germans. The embassy's basement contained radio equipment linking to networks across Scandinavia. From Swedish ports, fishing boats secretly transported Allied agents, refugees, and intelligence materials. These fishing trips were anything but innocent. They represented a covert lifeline between occupied Scandinavia and the free world. American officers coordinated these operations while maintaining Sweden's official neutrality. As Allied armies crossed into Germany itself in 1945, the nature of secret bases changed. Now they served a new purpose, preparing for the occupation and gathering intelligence on Nazi weapons programs and war criminals. The Alsos mission was a top-secret program to capture German scientists and atomic research before the Soviets could. Small teams of American scientists and intelligence officers raced ahead of advancing troops, seizing laboratories, interrogating researchers, and collecting uranium supplies. They operated from unmarked vehicles and commandeered buildings. When American forces captured the underground factories at Nordhausen, they discovered the V-2 rocket production facility, built by concentration camp slave labor. Within hours, a secret team arrived to document everything, not just for war crimes prosecution, but to seize the technology before the Soviets arrived. Entire rockets were disassembled and shipped to secret locations. The Americans established secret interrogation centers with code names like Dustbin and Ashcan. High-ranking Nazi officials and scientists were held in castle facilities, questioned extensively about weapons programs, military dispositions, and each other. Kransberg Castle became a gilded cage for Germany's scientific elite. Camp King in Oberursel became the center of American intelligence operations in occupied Germany. Initially established as a Luftwaffe interrogation center for captured Allied airmen, The Americans repurposed it for questioning German prisoners and recruiting agents for operations against the Soviets. It would remain secret for decades. Today, most of these secret bases have vanished. Fields where fighters once scrambled are now farmland. Safe houses have been demolished or converted into apartments. The physical infrastructure of America's shadow war has largely disappeared. But the legacy remains. The OSS would transform into the CIA, carrying forward the techniques and networks developed in these secret bases. The agents who survived became the architects of Cold War intelligence. Those who didn't survive are honored in stars on the CIA Memorial Wall, many still unnamed, their stories still classified. The secret American bases hidden across WWII Europe represented more than military installations. They were proof that modern warfare extends far beyond battlefields, into shadow networks, covert operations, and invisible infrastructure. The men and women who operated from these hidden places changed history, even though history books rarely mention their names. From the foggy airfields of England to the mountains of Italy, from neutral capitals to occupied cities, Americans built a hidden empire dedicated to victory. They took risks that seem unimaginable today, operated under covers that could fail at any moment, and accepted that their sacrifices might never be acknowledged. As we stand here decades later, we can finally begin to tell their stories. Stories of courage, ingenuity, and determination that remained classified for generations. These weren't just secret bases, they were the hidden foundations of liberation. The next time you see an old photograph from World War II Europe, look carefully. Behind the obvious might be something invisible, a secret installation, a covert operation, or an American agent hiding in plain sight. The most important bases were the ones no one was supposed to see. And perhaps, somewhere in Europe, there are still secrets waiting to be discovered, stories still waiting to be told, and bases whose locations remain classified even today. The shadow war of World War II may be over, but its mysteries endure.